Welcome to today's webinar on bulk adding devices. I'm Ben from the Things Industries, and I'm glad to have you here. Today we're going to cover, like I said, how to add a bunch of devices in the Things stack. We've tried to make it really easy to add devices one by one in the console, but if you have a lot of devices that you want to onboard at once, then we've also added some bulk adding features so that in the console with as little effort as possible, you can add all of these devices. And today I'm going to go through how to do that. So let me share my screen, then we can get started. Okay. All right, there is my screen. And here we go. Oops. All right, so hopefully everybody can see this. Today's presentation is about bulk adding devices in the Things stack. It should be really short. I'll just cover the documentation where we explain the file format that you need in order to be able to import devices in bulk. And then I'll walk you through importing devices. And then as a bonus, I'll show you how to export devices, just in case you want to, say, go from the ThingStack Community Edition to the ThingStack Cloud, or if you want to move devices, for example, from one application to another inside the ThingStack instance. So first of all, everything that I'm doing today is covered in our documentation. I'll show you where that is. It's at thethingsindustriescom/docs. But there we have, under getting started /migrating, we have the CSV and JSON file references. We have a lot of code snippets that are really helpful for migrating devices. So with that said, I think I'll get started showing you how to actually import devices. So we're going to start in the Things stack. Let me make sure that everybody can see. Okay, yep, looks like this is working. Cool. So we're here in the console. And the first thing we need to do is go to the application in which we want to add the devices. So I've created an application already for that. If you want to create a specific application to group the devices that you are going to be importing, then do that, hit create application. I'll jump into this here, and then all I need to do is go down to import end devices here, and I choose the file format. So first we're going to import a CSV. It's very likely that if you're importing devices in bulk, your manufacturer will send you all of the details about those devices in a CSV file. And this is something that we pretty recently added in order to support that. So I select a file, and this is the minimal example that we also have in the documentation. There's a template so that if you want to create your own CSV, let me show you that. You can see all of the information that the CSV import supports. And something that's pretty cool, I think, is that you can also tag a device from the device repository. And then when you import, you get a payload formatter for free. So you can actually link these imports to a particular device. And we have a template file so that you can create your own CSV file containing the information about a lot of devices if you have that in another format. And then we have some examples here. So I'm just going to import one of these examples in order to show you how this works. So here we go, and I've selected this CSV file, which contains details about the devices that I want to import. In the console, we also allow you to specify some fallback values, and these are required fields which, if you don't specify in the CSV, you can also just specify here. So for example, if you're importing a bunch of devices and you know that the frequency plan is the same, in this case, I'll say my frequency plan is 868, my LoRaWAN version is 1.02, and then my regional parameters version is 1.02 revision B. And then that will just apply to all of the devices in your CSV file which are not specified. That can be really helpful if that information is missing in your CSV, or if you just want to import a bunch of the same device and then you don't need to bother to specify it. So now I'm going to hit import end devices, and I'm going to get an error because I want to show you that there is also error checking in the import. So if I import this, you'll see that 2 of the devices imported correctly, but the first one already existed in the tenant. So there's another device somewhere else in another tenant that has the same join EUI and dev EUI. And so the thing stack checks that and doesn't allow you to register that device. But the other two devices I can see. So if I go to my end device list, I can see that EUI 22222 and EUI 3333 were successfully imported there. And that is basically all that you need to know to import devices using that CSV import. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the screen share here, just in case anybody has any questions at this point, before I go and show you how to export and then import devices. So I'll just give a second. If anybody has any questions about the CSV import, please drop them in the chat. And then otherwise, I'll get started showing the export and import using the CLI, which is a little bit more complicated, but also I think 99% of import cases should be covered just by the CSV import. So, okay, doesn't look like there are any questions. At the end, I'll make some more time for questions. So if you want to save them until then, feel free. I'll share my screen again. And then what I'm going to show you next is how to export a device using the CLI and then import that device, which could be really useful, for example, if you want to go from the ThinkStack Community Edition to the ThinkStack Cloud, or if you want to move devices between applications or between tenants. So here is my screen again. Bam. Okay. And now, to do this, we need to use the CLI. Let me first clean up this application so I can get rid of these devices that we've added. Okay, cool. So now I have this application and I just have one device in it, the BUA tracker. And so let's say I want to export this application and then I want to import it either in another application, or for this example, I'll just re-import it into the same one. So for this, we need the CLI. Let's go and fire that up. In the documentation, we also have instructions for installing and registering the CLI. That is under the documentation getting started, command line interface, and then you can follow instructions for installing. And then once you install the CLI, you need to make sure that you configure it to connect to the ThinkStack instance. And that is also that's covered in the documentation. And you can double check that you've done that correctly. Oops. You can double check that you've done that correctly by using the login command. So once I do a login, then the browser will open and the console, the command line, will get an access code so that it can work with the ThinkStack instance. And I can double check that that's working if I do something like applications list, and then I'll be able to see all of the applications that I have in my ThinkStack instance. And as you can see, this matches up with the applications that I have here. So back into this application, we've got this one device, and what we want to do is export this. So in the documentation, I'm going to go and steal a code snippet that we use. So this in the instructions for migrating end devices between the ThinkStack, we have instructions for exporting. So we want to do this without persisting an active session because we want the devices to rejoin once we add them. And here under migrate OTA devices, we have a little code snippet for exporting a device. So I'm just going to copy this. And I know that my CLI is configured to use that tenant. So I'll copy and paste. And then we just need to go and enter the application ID. Let me make this a little bit bigger. So my application ID is bulk add, I believe. Double check. Bulk add. And then the device is the BUA tracker. Okay. And that's going to export this device to the device description.json file there. If you want to do this in bulk, I'll share a link at the end with some scripts which allow you to do it for the entire application. But just as an example, I'm showing you how to do this for one device. So let's hit enter, and then I can go and I can look at that file. So here, the device description.json file, let's take a look. And as you can hopefully see, we have the ID of the device here defined in this JSON, and then a lot of other metadata. And the thing is that the network server address and the joint server address also get exported. So if you're doing this to export devices from one tenant, like the ThingStack Community Edition, to a different tenant, then you want to make sure that you get rid of these network server address and joint server addresses here. So I'll just go ahead and delete those. And when you import in the ThingStack, it autofills those for you. So to be safe, you can always delete them. Now I go to my tenant. Let's get rid of this device because I'm going to import it again. And now it's the same process as before. I just import end devices. I choose JSON this time because we've exported a JSON file. And then I go and find that file. Here it is. And import end devices, and voila, my device is here. And now when it joins, I'll see it in the ThingStack. So that covered bulk adding devices. That was basically it. Like I said, there is a video on our YouTube about using the CLI to do tasks like this. And Hilke shared a lot of really useful scripts for exporting and importing devices in bulk. The link is here. I'll also put it in the chat. But yeah, if you want to try this yourself, or if you want to actually use this at an enterprise level with the scripts that we have, then this is the place to grab those scripts. Let's see. And that is it. So if anybody has any questions, I hope that was easy enough to follow along. I tried to make it really snappy, but yeah, in the console, that functionality is really, really easy to use. So I think it's pretty easy to figure out if you have a CSV file there and you want to import a bunch of devices. And hopefully that saves you a bunch of time. I'll give a few minutes here. If anybody has any questions, please post them. Otherwise, thank you for watching. Hope that was helpful. Sure thing, Travis. Thanks for watching. Okay, here's a cool question. How can I download 100 end devices data out of 700 devices based on dev ID? So the way that I would do that is using the script that Hilke shares and JQ. So it's really, really easy to pipe this CSV file through through JQ and just filter based on any metadata inside that file. Here, let me post a link to that video, and there you can see exactly how Hilke does that. But that, oh, wait. Okay, here. Okay, I guess that posted to YouTube. Hold on, let me see if I can share the video. Okay, so here is the YouTube video where Hilke shares the scripts about shares the scripts for doing that exactly that type of bulk add. He turns the CSV file into a database and then filters based on metadata, and then you can just import the file at the end. If you can't copy that link, you can just go on our YouTube and search for the ThingStack CLI Power Tools video, and you'll surely find it. Any other questions? These are good questions. Thanks. And thanks for watching, Travis. Thanks, Robert. I'm glad that it was helpful. Cool. I don't see any other questions coming in. We are always reachable at info@thetingsindustries.com. Just shoot us an email there if you have any more questions. Yeah. Thanks again for watching. Hope to see you guys at the next webinar. Bye. Sure thing. Thanks for watching, Marion. Thanks, James.